Musk, transgender rights, and renewable energy debated on the House floor as the Senate in Chicago had a hearing for a transportation committee talking about consolidating mass transit. Just some of the things that were happening with state legislators yesterday, giving you all you need to know to wake up this morning. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell here on YouTube. Get the podcast where you get podcasts, and don't forget to sign up for that newsletter so you can stay plugged in. All right, so yesterday morning, the pros and cons of mass transit consolidation were raised during a Senate Transportation Committee. Kevin Bessler with the Center Square putting this story together, talking about discussions and a measure around Senate Bill 5, which would create the Metropolitan Mobility Authority, which would oversee Metra, PACE, and the Chicago Transit Authority and the Regional Transportation Authority. The agencies collectively face a $770 million fiscal cliff by 2026. So some people have been pushing for consolidating all of these for particular transit agencies. You had Annie McGowan with the Civic Federation say that Senate Bill 5 is the best way to go.
Senate Bill 5 would provide a more centralized, efficient, and integrated system that focuses on the rider experience. As Audrey just laid out, the bill would allow for a needed realignment of board governance, fair revenue requirements, oversight and accountability mechanisms, and rider-focused planning. This legislation would address the inefficiencies, governance issues, and the lack of accountability and coordination that have plagued the transit agencies for decades.
You got a lot of money here, right? And some people see the ridership of these particular transit agencies, and they ask, well, are we subsidizing more than what they're able to bring in by fares? Is there too many overlapping and too many people involved and hands in the pie, so to speak? Is there a way to consolidate this to bring the costs down? Is there a way to modernize things with apps and such? And then there's the concern about safety with the issue of whether or not people feel safe getting on, say, Chicago Transit Authority, CTA, or any of the other particular types of transit that there is, particularly in the Chicago suburbs and what. Audrey Wennick, Senior Director of the Metropolitan Planning Council, shared her thoughts about supporting Senate Bill 5.
By centralizing planning, we can ensure fair service allocation and logical timed connections across the region. The General Assembly should embrace comprehensive reform through SB 5 rather than continuing with incremental changes that have not delivered results. Now's the time to be excited about the future of transit. The MMA offers an integrated, cost-effective structure that protects workers, makes riders feel safer, and delivers a regional system people will want to use. It's the solution we all need.
Some are worried, though, that this is going to lead to the suburbs and their constituencies being left out of the conversation. Right? There's all kinds of angles to this, and right ahead of the budget, where May 31st, you got a deadline to put out money for all of these different priorities in the state of Illinois. You've got this measure that they've been talking about. This was like the 9th hearing on this yesterday. They've been talking about this for a year and a half, if not more, behind closed doors. I don't know, but it's been public in all the conversations they've had for a long time to consolidate these mass transit districts. Government consolidation. You'll see advocates all over the statehouse doing, pushing for consolidating townships with municipalities or villages, consolidating school districts. I mean, Illinois has the most units of government, I believe, than even Texas. You've got almost 900 school districts, like 7,000 plus units of government, from mosquito abatement districts to library districts and park districts and townships and villages and municipalities and community college districts, and these are all taxing bodies. Look at your tax bill. Look at your property tax bill. You will see stack of all of the different taxing bodies that you pay into when you pay your property taxes. So obviously government consolidation is something a lot of people champion, but there's always some pushback, including the idea of whether or not there's going to be enough buy-in, or if people are going to be let in whenever there are consolidation efforts. State Senator Don DeWitt, the Republican from St. Charles, he shared some of his concerns he has from being in the suburbs.
Equitable representation with equity in voting. I know there's some language in the existing bill that really kind of steamrolls the suburbs when it comes to the ability of 3 of the 4 appointed bodies, if you will, the city, Cook County, the governor's office, and then the suburban appointees. The suburbs get steamrolled in that process. I really appreciate the ongoing conversation that we're currently having about working some of that language out. I think the last thing anybody in the suburbs needs is the city of Chicago or Cook County collectively deciding what residents of Kane County or DuPage County or Will or McHenry County are going to be paying for metro fares without A, having any representation to debate those issues, and B, being absolutely steamrolled in the ability to be able to control that or have some input into whether it happens. So
that was just one hearing that happened yesterday up in Chicago with the Illinois Senate. The Senate did not come down to Springfield yesterday. I think they have the week off, but the House was in yesterday. Yesterday afternoon, they had a hearing about the U.S. Department of Agriculture spending freeze and the impact on farmers. Long conversation lasted on into the early evening. You had other hearings about education funding requests and different types of grants to go to programs to help with certain types of teachers or to help with certain types of education opportunities and all of that being discussed. Whole host of other things. They even had another energy conversation with environmental groups there talking about clean energy and such, and you have people pushing back on that idea, saying that this clean energy revolution is really causing some severe strain on the infrastructure. We'll actually hear a little bit about that here in a moment, but yesterday on the House floor, they didn't pass anything. Nothing of substance, but they come in, they gavel in, noon, have a prayer, pledge of allegiance, roll call for attendance, points of personal privilege. Well, State Representative Justin Slaughter, who championed the Safety Act and the Pretrial Fairness Act and other criminal justice reforms and police regulations, he had a point of personal privilege he wanted to share on the House floor yesterday.
I'd like to call to your attention a post by, and I guess we'll call him our president, President Donald Trump's biggest donor, top advisor, and effectively co-president, Elon Musk, in which he called for the pardon of Derek Chauvin. Chauvin pleaded guilty to federal charges stemming from the 2020 murder of George Floyd. At this time, Republicans and Democrats alike condemned Chauvin's brutality. But today, the most powerful man in the federal government wants to look the other way and pardon Chauvin. So today, I want to be very clear. Expecting a killer to be held accountable for a man's death is not woke politics. It's a matter of right and wrong.
Wasn't the only time Elon Musk's name was brought up on the House floor yesterday. Others did as well. But just to give you kind of the hodgepodge of points of personal privilege that legislators make, you had State Representative Brad Halbrook get up there with a point of personal privilege to talk about something else impacting Illinoisans right now here today.
Today I rise about a dangerous experiment that is being forced upon the people of Illinois. One that threatens our economy, our jobs, and even the reliability of our electrical grid. It's called the Net Zero Industrial Complex and is putting ideology ahead of reality. We've been told that eliminating fossil fuels and mandating wind and solar will lead us to a cleaner, greener future. But what has actually happened? What has it actually given us? It's given us higher energy bills, job losses, and a grid teetering on the edge of collapse. And let's not forget, while Illinois shuts down its power plants, other states and countries continue to burn coal and drill for oil. China is building hundreds of new coal plants while we destroy our own energy security. My question is, who benefits? Not the people of Illinois. It's a special interest in the global elites who push these mandates while profiting off of taxpayer handouts. We need a better path forward, one that enhances an all-of-the-above energy strategy. Illinois should be leading with common sense, not following the radical agenda of those who never, ever will have to worry about whether they'll be able to afford their next utility bill.
And obviously, that conversation is revving up more and more, as you've heard around the State House. They're looking for more battery storage expansion so we can store energy, and stuff's going to get crazy by 2030, and we need to do it now to make way for that. But if you ask, was it premature to get rid of coal-fired power plants after 2030 and 2035 and 2040? They say, no, they were going to close anyways, so why not just make them close? Well, again, the debate still rages about energy consumption, and that was just, again, people making points of personal privilege. You had State Representative Stephen Reich get up there, talk about how people are pushing and discussing national issues on the State House floor, but he wanted to talk about pensions and the minutia detail about how much it's going to cost taxpayers to make up for certain types of pension issues that they're facing at the State House. We'll have to do a deep dive into all that here soon. But all of the conversation bouncing back and forth on the State House floor yesterday, State Representative Kelly Cassidy rehashing some of the debate she had last week about transgender issues.
Nationally, 733 anti-trans bills have been introduced across the country, including 20 here in Illinois. To the folks at home who see those bills introduced and worry what that means, that we're heading down a bad road, know that those bills will never become law in Illinois as long as I have breath in my body. But the very introduction of the bills and the streaming of lies and attacks on a community's very existence does real and measurable harm. I shared the statistics about the mental health impacts of transphobic laws and rhetoric last week, so I'm not going to bore you with those again. As I spent time this weekend thinking about the situation we found ourselves in, I'm not enjoying the ping pong match either. I just kept coming back to being puzzled by why this handful of colleagues can't stop thinking about trans kids. And frankly, all I can come up with is that they have a creepy obsession with children's genitals. It's just plain creepy. Y'all need to get a better hobby. I invite my colleagues who think we've got better things to do, and I invite my colleagues on both sides of the aisle who think we've got better things to do, to join me in asking our colleagues to get serious about the work ahead of us. Stand now and join me in asking to focus on the needs of our actual communities and our actual constituents, rather than continuing to demonize children who represent a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the population. According to the Illinois High School Sports Association, the 3 trans students who competed last year represent, work with me here, 0.000009375% of the athletes competing in our state.
So Cassidy making the point that she doesn't understand what people's obsession is about the trans issue, saying what's wrong with having a trans person compete in sports against somebody of they were born in the opposite sex. I almost feel like sometimes I have to get like a sentence diagram just to make sure I'm getting everything right. But so she made that issue last week as well, and even casting aspersions, saying that people who are concerned about the trans athlete issue or gender ideology perforating throughout schools and whatnot, she says that it's coming from people who have an obsession with, I'll let her words stand by themselves. But State Representative Regan Deering, a Republican from Decatur, new to the Illinois State House this year, she stood up and said that she has one of those 20 bills that Cassidy was trying to chastise on the House floor.
So I just felt like it was necessary to make a comment as a reaction to a colleague from the other side of the aisle. I, in fact, as a sponsor of one of those 20 bills here in Illinois that is protecting women and girls in sports. This is a bipartisan issue. I have 2 daughters that are competing in sports, and I know that millions of girls across Illinois are looking for someone to have their back. Who is going to have the back of the 99.999% of girls who are looking for fairness and safety when they step on the field or go and compete. Just earlier this year in January, the New York Times, not exactly a conservative news outlet, conducted a poll, and in fact, 67% of Democrats support biological girls competing in girls' sports, biological boys competing in boys' sports. So I too echo the passion of leaving our kids alone, and I want my constituents to know, and women and girls all over the state of Illinois, that I have their back. Thank you.
Well, where do we go from here at the Illinois House? Surely we'll hear some more debate on the House floor. There's a lot more hearings going on. We'll hear about Republicans critical of Democrat priorities. There was a news conference about that yesterday. We've got another Republican news conference today where they're going to be discussing public safety legislation. You've got a union news conference coming up as well, and even some Native American tribes are going to be there. Plus, another gun violence prevention committee today. So that we'll have to delve into and keep you updated as to what happens. We'll review that tomorrow. That's why you need to wake up with us each and every weekday morning here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop with all my magical tools in front of me, making stuff happen, getting it where it needs to go, and greatly appreciate you tuning in. Went a little longer than I wanted today because I got to get out of here and go to the State House. Stuff's starting up already. Have yourself a wonderful rest of the day. We'll see you back here soon with Illinois in Focus Daily.